Hello, my name is Amanda Parmelee, and I am a master's student within the communications program at Queen's University of Charlotte. The following is a digital thesis presentation on how the movie The Croods provides equipment for living. My thesis statement is that the movie The Croods provides equipment for living for people who fear change and the unknown. The study will draw upon examples from the movie as well as previously completed research to examine the ways people react to fear of change, how and if they confront that fear, and the outcomes the individuals face. Research by Kenneth Burke, one of the main founders of the idea of equipment for living being present in different scenarios and situations in literature, says that although the equipment for living is easily observed by an individual viewer or reader, other times it's buried deep within the plots, or as some researchers argue, erased altogether by oversimplification. One of the examples of this can be by the researcher Terrell, who suggests that the film Batman Forever is an attempt to sanitize its main character of his psychosexuality, and overly managed and too demystified, making it unavailable as equipment for living. Terrell explains that when the original comic books were created, the characters of Batman and Robin were considered to be too much of an influence on popular culture in regard to homosexual displays, an example being the appearance of Bruce Wayne in a dressing gown or the manner in which the home they shared was decorated. Wortham observed, quote, "Only someone ignorant of the fundamentals of psychiatry and of the psychopathology of sex can fail to realize a subtle atmosphere of homoeroticism which pervades the adventures of the mature Batman and his young friend Robin." Terrell believed that although some may consider Batman Forever to be more palatable than its predecessors, the film offered, quote, "a particularly insidious form of oppression. Batman is a cultural artifact rendered culturally useless through excessive demystification." One of the main ways that people experience equipment for living throughout literature is the way that they relate to the different characters and the experiences they have. For example, people and researchers often say that whether or not viewers take anything away from the performance depends on how they identify with the characters and the situations that they are put into within the films and literature. For example, in Fear.com and I Know What You Did Last Summer, women are shown always needing to be quote-unquote saved by a male counterpart, and that their survival depends on the presence of a male in difficult situations. This equipment for living isn't necessarily a positive one, showing that women need men in hard situations in order to remain alive. In examining The Croods, my research focused on the way that adults versus children interpreted the equipment for living, depending differently on their age group. For example, how do the conclusions and information gleaned differ between a parent and a child when watching The Croods, or any movie that, parents would take their children to? Although the information provided by previous researchers focuses heavily on the interpretation, including by gender, there is room to expand upon the interpretation by age group. For example, where a child or adolescent may identify with the film's equipment for living regarding the presence of an overprotective parent, an adult may identify with the feeling of being that overprotective parent and the fear that comes from letting go, including the fear of the unknown or change as depicted in The Croods. In the movie The Croods, equipment for living is displayed in multiple ways. The father, Grug, is deeply rooted in his belief that survival is dependent on his family's ability to follow the rules. In an attempt to protect them from the fate experienced by their neighbors, Grug relies on his fear of the unknown and anxiety in regard to the future. His daughter, on the other hand, is constantly pushing the boundaries, an example of the equipment for living in regard to children of overprotective parents. The character who challenges the family belief that everything unknown should be feared, thus providing a partial solution in regard to the equipment for living, is the oldest child and daughter Eve. As the one who first meets and interacts with the character Guy prior to the destruction of their cave, Eve is a constant headache for her parents because she refused to accept the fear of the unknown that her parents try to impress upon her to remain safe. This is where I find that there's room to discover the ways that different age groups interpret the message of the film. Various examples could include a father who views the film and realizes he's being too strict in raising his children, a daughter who feels powerless and then learns she can draw strength from within to face the everyday challenges, etc. The equipment for living provided in this film varies from character to character and plotline to plotline. Although it's different for each viewer, it remains rooted in the belief that we're all facing aspects of our lives that are worrisome, scary, or nerve-wracking. What researchers and viewers may draw from the film directly relates to what we are experiencing in our everyday lives. Despite the fact that the film is targeted towards a younger audience, the results provided by the research serve to support the film's display of equipment for living for audiences of all ages.